Welcome and please enjoy this retelling of It's a Wonderful Life. Merry Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho! Everyone called George Bailey the richest man in Bedford Falls. He had almost no money. What he had was a web of connections so dense that his life was indistinguishable from the town airs. The building and loan he ran had helped half the families in town buy their homes. The friends who drank with him at martinis owed him favors and offered them freely. His wife Mary had built their drafty old house into a home where the door was always open. His children adored him. But George had never wanted this life. He had wanted to travel, to build things, big things, bridges and skyscrapers, not modest homes for modest families, to shake the dust of Bedford Falls off his feet and see the world. He had been the brightest boy in town, voted most likely to succeed, full of plans that would take him far away.
And then his father died.
And someone had to run the building and loan, or Potter, the spider at the center of the town's economy, would have bought it for nothing and owned everyone. George stayed for the funeral, then the transition, then one more crisis, then another. Every time he was about to leave, something held him. His brother got an opportunity George couldn't ask him to give up. The bank run came and only George's honeymoon money kept the building and loan open. The war needed him here, keeping the home front stable. 20 years passed. The dust never got shaken. The bridges never got built. George stood in his drafty house with too many children and not enough money, and wondered what had happened to the boy who was going to see the world. On Christmas Eve, everything collapsed. His Uncle Billy lost $8,000, misplaced it, handed it to Potter by accident, couldn't explain where it had gone. The bank examiner was coming. Without that money, the building and loan would be ruined. George would be ruined. He might go to prison. He went home and shouted at his children. He kicked over the model bridge his daughter had made, the one she wanted him to help her with. He told Mary everything was terrible and nothing mattered, and he was worth more dead than alive. There was a life insurance policy. She'd be better off. And then he ran out into the snow. He stood on a bridge over the frozen river, looking down at the black water. He was the richest man in town, and he was about to jump because he had failed at the one thing that wasn't even his dream. All his webs of connection felt like chains. Everyone who loved him felt like weight. He had given his life to this town, and now the town would take everything from him, and his family would be destroyed anyway. What was any of it for? A man named Clarence pulled him from the water. George hadn't jumped. Someone else fell in, and George dove after them instinctively. But Clarence was no ordinary drowning victim. He was a second-class angel without wings, sent to earn them by saving George Bailey. "I wish I'd never been born," George said as they sat dripping in a toll house. Clarence tilted his head. "You mean that, don't you?" "Yeah, I mean it." "All right, you got your wish. You've never been born." And the world changed. Bedford Falls wasn't Bedford Falls anymore. It was Pottersville, mean, neon-lit, full of pawn shops and bars and desperation. Potter had won because there was no building and loan to stop him. The little houses George had financed didn't exist. Those families lived in Potter's slums. George ran through the town looking for anything he recognized. The faces were wrong. People he knew didn't know him. His mother ran a boarding house with bitter eyes. His wife was a frightened librarian who screamed when a stranger grabbed her arm. Worst, his brother Harry was dead. Had been dead since childhood, had drowned in the icy pond because George wasn't there to save him. And because Harry died young, he wasn't alive to save the transport ship in the war. Every man on that ship was dead. "Strange, isn't it?" Clarence said. "Each man's life touches so many other lives. When he isn't around, he leaves an awful hole, doesn't he?" George saw the hole. He was standing in it.
"I want to live again," George said.
He was on the bridge where he'd almost jumped, but now he was begging for the opposite. Snow was falling.
His hands were on the rail. "Please, God, let me live again. I want to live."
The snow kept falling. But something had shifted. The town behind him was Bedford Falls again. The cop who approached him called him by name. He ran home through streets that knew him. The bank examiner was still there. The scandal was still real. He might still go to prison, but he was alive. His children existed. Mary was his wife. His brother had saved those soldiers. Every thread of connection was back in place. He burst into the house and hugged his children and laughed at the bank examiner and waited for whatever was going to happen next. What happened next was the town showing up. Mary had sent word.
George was in trouble.
And every family he had helped, every person who owed him something, every friend he had made in 20 years of staying, they came through the door with money. Martini came. The people from Bailey Park came. Sam Wainwright wired a blank check. Even the bank examiner was moved. The basket on the table filled with more than enough to cover the missing $8,000. His brother Harry arrived last, having flown through a blizzard to be there. He raised a glass to my big brother George, the richest man in town. And now the phrase meant something different, not ironic. True, George was rich because he had given.
Every loan, every favor, every
time he'd stayed when he wanted to leave, the town had been keeping accounts he didn't know about. And now the accounts were being settled. He hadn't built bridges or skyscrapers. He had built something harder to see, a network of interdependence that would catch him when he fell. He thought he'd sacrificed his life for Bedford Falls.
he hadn't.
He'd woven his life into Bedford Falls, and when the thread was tested, the whole fabric held. A bell rang on the Christmas tree. George's daughter Zuzu said what the rest of them already knew. Teacher says, every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. George looked up at the ceiling, at where Clarence might be, and smiled.
Attaboy, Clarence.
The angel had done his work. Not by changing George's circumstances, the money had come from neighbors, not heaven, but by letting George see what had been invisible to him. He thought his connections were chains. They were roots. He thought his sacrifices were losses. They were investments. He thought he had given up his life for a town that would never pay him back. The town had been paying him back all along. He just couldn't see it because the currency wasn't money. George Bailey wanted to leave Bedford Falls. He wanted to build things far away. He wanted a life of importance and adventure. He got something else, a life so woven into other lives that removing him unmade the world. Maybe that was the bigger adventure.
Maybe that was the more important thing to build.
Standing in his crowded living room, surrounded by people who had come through a snowstorm to give him money they could barely afford, George Bailey finally understood what he had made without knowing he was making it. And for the first time in years, he stopped wanting to be somewhere else.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more. Share to help the channel grow.